The United States, a superpower born of geography. In human history, very few nations have risen to superpower status in just over 2 centuries since their founding. But the United States has done exactly that. A young nation, without the ancient castles of Europe, without dynasties lasting thousands of years like those of many Eurasian civilizations. At first glance, the United States seems to lack the great legacies that history often associates with major powers. Yet precisely because it was not bound by tradition, class, and old power structures, young America possessed an advantage that few nations have ever had: a space to start again from zero. Not conservative, no burden of history, not constrained by old patterns. And the big question arises: what helped the United States become the richest, most powerful, and most influential nation in the world? Many would say political institutions, democratic culture, the market economy, science and technology. All of that is true. But before all of those factors appeared, there was a deeper, quieter foundation that is often overlooked. That foundation was territory. No nation exists detached from land, water, and natural conditions. Every people is shaped by the land on which they live. Rivers create the first trade routes. Mountain ranges draw borders. Oceans provide security and strategic isolation. And in the case of the United States, nature granted it one of the most ideal territories history has ever recorded. From small colonies along the Atlantic coast to a nation stretching from one ocean to the other. The history of the United States, in the end, is the story of the expansion of living space and how people maximize those rare geographical advantages. If you want to understand why the United States became great, start by looking at its territorial expansion. Chapter 1. An ideal beginning. At the beginning of the 17th century, the first ships from England crossed the Atlantic and docked on the land that would later be called the United States. They had no idea that they had just stepped onto the foundation of a future superpower. As soon as they arrived, the English realized something unusual. Nature here was not as harsh as in other colonies. A coastline stretching thousands of kilometers, a mild climate, fertile land. Large rivers such as the Hudson, Delaware, and Potomac became natural waterways, allowing ships to penetrate deep into the interior. Small vessels could dock almost anywhere. These were conditions that in Europe only the wealthiest nations could afford. From Jamestown to Boston, New York, a network of settlements began to form. 13 British colonies emerged along the Atlantic coast. It was no accident that they developed so rapidly. It was geography, not gold or silver, that turned this place into one of the richest regions of the New World. Tobacco, cotton, corn, wheat, high-value commodities at the time were grown on vast fields. Natural harbors such as Boston, Philadelphia, and Charleston became bustling centers of trade. A dynamic economy took shape even before the United States existed on the map. Geography was the first gift that history gave to America. Chapter 2. A nation too small for a big dream. In 1776, the United States declared independence. But if we look at the map at that time, we see a cold reality. The United States was too small. The original 13 states stretched only along the Atlantic coast. To the east lay the vast ocean. To the west, the Appalachian Mountains rose like a natural wall. And beyond those mountains was a continent that was almost entirely unexplored. Endless plains, rivers thousands of kilometers long, limitless resources. The population grew rapidly, agriculture developed, trade expanded, but living space became increasingly cramped. If they wanted to survive, they needed land. If they wanted to prosper, they needed resources. If they wanted security, they needed to control internal transportation routes. Geography forced the United States into an unavoidable choice. They had to move west, but the west was not empty. France controlled Louisiana. Spain was present in the south. Britain remained a threat from the north. And in the middle of it all was the Mississippi River, the lifeline of the entire continent. Whoever controlled the Mississippi controlled of North America's internal trade. The Americans understood that very clearly. Chapter 3. The Louisiana Deal. The year was 1803. The United States was just over 25 years old. The treasury was limited. The army was weak. but they stood before a historic opportunity. Napoleon, Emperor of France, controlled the vast territory of Louisiana. European wars, the Haitian uprising, a desperate need for cash. Louisiana shifted from a strategic asset to a heavy burden. And then the unthinkable happened. All of Louisiana, larger than the United States at that time, was sold for just $15 million. No war, no invasion, just a contract. But it doubled the territory of the United States overnight. The Mississippi now lay entirely in American hands. From then on, agricultural goods could flow straight to the sea. Domestic trade boomed, people poured westward. If independence was the moment the United States was born, then the Louisiana Purchase was the moment the United States began to grow up. Chapter 4. The Frontier. The West was not just a new land. It was a concept, a spirit. No castles, no paved roads, only land, sky, and human hands. Here, no one asked where you came from. They asked only, do you dare to take risks? The frontier shaped American values. Self-reliance, the courage to fail, not waiting for rescue. The West became a new growth engine, large-scale agriculture, mining, domestic trade. Each step westward pushed the European empires farther out of North America. Chapter 5. Texas, Mexico, and the Pacific. In 1845, Texas joined the United States. Mexico was enraged. War broke out. In 1846 to 1848, the United States won. The map of North America was redrawn. California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico fell into American hands, and most importantly, the United States reached the Pacific Ocean for the first time. 2 oceans, 1 continent, a massive strategic advantage. Gold was discovered in California. The gold rush erupted. The United States was no longer just an Atlantic nation. It became a continental power. Chapter 6. The final piece, Oregon was divided with Britain along the 49th parallel. The Gadsden Purchase completed the Southern Railroad route. The 48 contiguous states were formed. For the first time in history, a nation possessed an entire continent protected by 2 oceans, rich in resources, with ideal natural transportation. Conclusion. By the mid-19th century, the United States had in its hands space, resources, geographical security. Geography gave the United States the chance to become great. But what helped it turn that chance into reality? The answer lies in the next episode.